How's it going, everyone? Today, I wanted to talk to you about my thoughts and opinions on the Dark Souls series. And specifically, I wanted to talk to you today about what I want to see out of the next Dark Souls game, the next installment in the Dark Souls series, or the next game that From Software does that's very, well, Dark Souls esque. I instantly loved the series as soon as I started playing the first game that From Software released in the Dark Souls style, Demon Souls. That was an incredible game that really came out of nowhere and surprised me, and I think a lot of gamers at that. Demon Souls was a difficult game. It was very rewarding, though. It took a lot of gameplay mechanics, I would say, from old school 3D Zelda games, just really cranking up the dial to make it as hard as they could. I really want to see From Software do something new with the series, whether that means take the Dark Souls universe to a different area that we haven't seen before, different types of landscapes, perhaps. I would also love From Software to do a brand new game, but in the vein of Dark Souls. Hands down, Bloodborne is my favorite Souls-born game. Not having a shield and not really being able to parry really limits you. And I don't know, I think from a gameplay standpoint, I really prefer Bloodborne because of that. I also prefer Bloodborne because of the art style and just how it's kind of inspired by the Victorian era. I think that it's a really good look and it gives it more of that horror, really creepy vibe. And I love it for that. I don't know. I guess I just want to see a new world. Ultimately, that is the big thing on my wish list when it comes to this. I just really want to see the a Dark Souls type of game in a different setting. I don't know, maybe sci-fi. Who knows? I mean, it could work. I don't know about having, relying on guns too much. I don't really see how they can make a Dark Souls type game with guns. But hey, it'd be something new, it'd be something completely different, and maybe it really could work. I mean, Bloodborne did have guns, so it could work. Another thing I'd really like to see more puzzle elements. I think the series would really benefit from successfully implemented puzzle segments in the game, kind of like how Zelda Breath of the Wild has all these shrines, and in these shrines, there are a bunch of platforming puzzle segments. I think Dark Souls would hugely benefit from this if it's implemented correctly. I understand that a lot of you may think that, well, Dark Souls is an action game that's supposed to be over the top and really difficult. That's its bread and butter, and it shouldn't stray too far from that core. And I can respect that, but I think adding puzzle segments, again, kind of like in Zelda, would really benefit the series, adding more variety to the gameplay and offering a different type of challenge. Personally, I'm all for it so long as it doesn't ruin the game's pace and overall flow. One criticism I have with Breath of the Wild is replaying that game in master mode, for instance, is a complete bitch because you have to go through all these shrines again and in order to power up your character. And sometimes the shrines kind of slow things down in terms of pacing overall. I would love to see dungeons in a Dark Souls game. I think that Dark Souls 3 had some moments where, especially in the catacombs, where it felt like you were kind of diving down into a dungeon. But I don't know, not necessarily. I don't want dungeons specifically for environmental purposes, right? How it looks. I want it more for like, in terms of having to explore a dark kind of labyrinth. And then by doing so and defeating whatever optional boss is in this dungeon, you would then get really good loot, really good weapons. I think you could also tie in, maybe throw in some puzzle segments in these optional dungeons. Dark Souls could really start to become a competitor to Zelda in a sense where it could have more Zelda-esque elements to it while still keeping it a Souls game. The last thing on my wish list. So I really do think it's clever and different how Dark Souls went about doing its multiplayer. how you didn't get into lobbies to do co-op or to do competitive PvP style matches. But I don't know. I think you can have that, but it would also be nice to have the option to get into a lobby with a public match or a private match with your friends and then just select classes almost. Again, not going like super crazy into it where there's teams and different modes, but maybe just a better infrastructure to house PvP because so many people love the PvP in the Soul series. And the biggest thing holding back PvP in Dark Souls is there's no real solid way to house tournaments or to house um, matches. There's no real good infrastructure for PvP in the Souls games. I don't think they figured that one out quite yet. Let me know what you guys think. Or are you interested in seeing some puzzle segments in Souls games, or do you think that's going to kind of detract from the overall pace and what Dark Souls is at its core? Let me know. I seriously would love to know your thoughts on this. All right, that's it for me, everybody. I'll see you next time. Most importantly, go play some hard games.